What's going on, guys? Andy here, and welcome to another video. For those who are new, I'm a full-time user experience engineer, and on this channel I share my journey, learnings, and passion for world building and character design with all of you. In today's video, we're going to pick up from where we left off in the last video with our Peacock Knight concept. Now, in our last session, we took all of our ideas for our character, expanded on them, and narrowed them down to a singular idea to now explore our colors with. In this video, I'll also share some sweet suggestions and shortcuts to really speed up your workflow. Now, I know you're already excited, so let's channel that energy and jump right into it. In our last video, we finished off our iteration by filling in the character silhouette underneath the lines. We did this to not only check the silhouette and overall readability, but to also serve as a mask for our color iteration. By the way, if you haven't already seen my video on idea iteration, definitely check it out. I have it linked in the description as well as in a card in the top right hand corner. With our mask already in place, the first step I like to take in prepping my file for color exploration is separating out the elements of my character. I do this with whatever colors I like as long as they are readable against one another. I do this primarily so I can see clearly and not accidentally cross into another area I don't want that color in. I typically separate materials by color and on their own separate layer. So for this character, I separated the armor from the clothing, the separate pieces of clothing, and even the accents from their parent element. You'll see soon enough why I do this. Once we have our materials and accents all separated out, it's time to pick our colors. As you can see, I chose some really funky colors to block out these materials with. So how do I go about changing these colors to reflect what I truly want? I have a shortcut for that. Well, actually, I have two shortcuts for that. Now, taking a step back from our character for a minute, I want to direct your attention towards this square. I have two very simple shortcuts to adjust this square's colors. The first is by locking the alphas on this layer. Alphas are the checkerboard looking pattern you see on fake PNG images you find on Google. Notice how if I remove the background layer, the square is sitting on top of this checkerboard. So if I lock the alphas, what that allows me to do is adjust anything that isn't the checkerboard. And to do this, in Photoshop, you can look in your layer menu for this checkerboard icon and click it. You'll see a lock icon next to your layer, which is not to be confused with a filled-in lock. Now, if I color over this square, you'll see that even when I color outside the square, I won't actually affect the outside area. And if you're worried about unlocking the alphas on that layer and it looking like a mess due to your scribbling all over, don't worry. As you see, everything remains nice and clean. That's shortcut number one. So now you can go ahead and lock the alphas on all your separated materials and fill those shapes in with whatever color you have selected. But there's a catch. You need to have the color you want selected. But what if you don't know what color you want? Well, that's where tip number 2 comes in. To build some suspense, I'll keep you hanging on tip number 2 for just a bit longer.
12 seconds later.
Okay, actually I can't wait to share this one with you, so here's tip number 2. Using the Hue Saturation tool. You can access this menu in Photoshop by hitting either Command U if you're on an Apple computer or Control U if you're on Windows. You can also do this by going up to Image, Adjustments, and then Hue Saturation. Now this menu comes up and it may be intimidating, but no worries, because you see this checkbox that says Colorize? Check it. Now you'll notice that our square took on a single color, and we're going to move the sliders around over to green. See how simple it is? And you can actually adjust the saturation. So if you bring it all the way down, we have a gray box. If we bring it all the way up, we have this really bright green. And playing around with the lightness, we can bring it towards white, towards black. And yeah, it's super simple. And with one tool, you have access to basically any color anyone could dream of. So use this method if maybe you're struggling with picking the color you want, using the color wheel. Or if you just want to experiment, this is also a really fun and engaging way. Now for being practical, I now have this square and some green accents separate on a separate layer. And basically what you want to do with your character is what we're doing with our square here. So I can adjust the base square color to fit what I am looking for. And then I can also adjust the accents to create something completely different from where we started out from. This example here is essentially the same exact thing we're going to be doing with our characters, with all the different materials and accents and clothing separated out on their own separate layers. Okay, so returning to our character, you'll see that I'm using both these techniques to fill in colors and play around with positioning and colors on the character in a way that intrigued me. But with how easy it is to change colors around, you can see just how easy it can be to get lost in combinations. So how do we stay grounded? Well, we should still have a guideline for the kind of colors we are going for in our design, and that is where our handy visual guide comes in. If you remember, if not, check out the video. We had a section on our guide specifically for colors. So with that reference in hand, you can see that I'm just working away at this color exploration as if it were a 7-layered chocolate cake. As I'm tinkering around with different color combinations, I am also considering aspects like contrast distribution and balance. When I'm designing my characters, I try not to have too many colors trying to compete with one another, and this is where having those small, medium, and large shapes and blocks of color come into play. I'll have a future video covering this topic in more detail, but in this current design, you can see that I'm choosing my colors in a way where one color takes up the largest amount of area, such as in the armor or coat, then choosing some supporting colors that are used a little more sparingly, such as in the shirt and pants, and then I have an accent color like the coat trims or the belts. Of course, this character is a little tricky since I have to think about the character when his armor is on or when it's off. So essentially, I'll have 2 primary colors, roughly 1 or 2 supporting colors, and then 1 accent color per primary color. Overall, the main goal here is to have a good balance of colors that clearly indicate what is important to the character's design versus what is there to only support that design. At this stage, I have a pretty strong sense of the colors I want for this character and the direction I want to take him in. Now to narrow down my options, what I like to do is check the values of the colors against various backgrounds to make sure the character reads well in the environment he is going to be in. This evaluation could look different depending on the character. For example, if your character is an assassin that hunts at night, you'll probably want to make sure that the character's values fit nicely in a darker environment. For this character, I want him to be loud and bold, like a peacock, in any environment, so the values will have to be distributed fairly evenly in the middle of dark and light. Not to mention, the peacock, when it is summoned, also needs to follow that same principle, so I do the same value checks for that as well. Once I've settled on a value distribution, I take it just a bit further to see if I can make any adjustments to the colors and hues. In this case, I was a little torn, but in the end, I decide on this option that you see up on the screen. Given this workflow, maybe you decide you want to try this out in a different order. Perhaps you want to work in grayscale and do all of your value checks before going to hue selections and all the color picking. That is a completely fine approach too, and sometimes I do that as well. Whatever steps you need to take to come to a result that you're happy with, do it. Regardless, I hope this video was helpful in guiding you towards creating characters that fit in the worlds you're building. If you did find this video helpful, please let me know by hitting the like button and dropping a comment down below letting me know what you think, even if it's just 3 of your favorite emojis. In our next video in this series, we'll take this character into its final rendering stage where we might make some design tweaks, some posing adjustments, and get into the nitty-gritty of polishing. So if that sounds like something of interest to you, definitely subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss it. We're getting closer and closer to 200 subscribers, and I'm so excited to be sharing all that I know and learn with more and more people like you. Now, if you're looking for an awesome community full of other wholesome creatives and storytellers, come on by and join us at the Discord link below. That said, I hope you guys have an amazing day ahead of you, create amazing and fulfilling art, and like always, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.